What's going on? It's Thursday, April 16th, and surprise, surprise, we have more severe weather to talk about. Day 1, Day 2, Day 3 risk. That means today, tomorrow, and Saturday. Now, tomorrow, Friday's risk does look the most serious. I'm in a little bit of a rush today, so again, let's get right into it. All right, so let's start with today's risk. We do have a large marginal risk stretching basically from the Texas-Mexico border all the way up through New England. There's a little area here where we have a gap. They may end up filling that in. Let's break this down a little bit. Let's go into our tornado threat today. We do have a 2 to 5% tornado threat stretching across portions of upstate New York and then into central to southern Vermont, little slither of southwestern New Hampshire there as well, or west central New Hampshire there. But again, I always say, even if you're just outside of this risk zone, you should be paying attention. These risk zones shift usually throughout the day as new info comes in and over the days. So again, if you're inside this green zone, that's a 2% tornado risk. So from any point in this zone, there's a 2% chance a tornado could touch down within 25 miles of that location today. And then in the brown area, that's a 5% chance. Utica, Syracuse, you're in there. Rochester, you're pretty close as well. And Oswego, if that's how you pronounce that. I'm sorry, I butcher a lot of names. Getting down here today, portions of Arkansas, Tennessee, and Mississippi, 2% tornado risk. Little Rock, Memphis, Jonesboro, some of the larger cities in there. Hot Springs, Pine Bluff, you guys know where you are. Make sure you have your weather alerts on today. Let's get into the wind risk today. This is just a 5 to 15% risk. Now, that 15% is up through portions of upstate New York and again, Vermont and a small portion of New Hampshire. Getting into our hail risk today, and there we go. Largest hail risk is going to be across portions of Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, and then western Tennessee, northern Mississippi. This is where, or this is going to be the most significant hail risk. This is our hatched area. So you could see 2-3+ inch size hail again through this portion of Texas, getting pretty close to Fort Worth, Texas. And then out here, we have that 5 to 15% chance for large hail, 2 to 3+ inch. Now, hail is still definitely possible as we push up through portions of the Ohio Valley, up the Appalachian Mountain Range, and then up here into New England. It's not expected to be as large as that southern mode, though. Let's get into day 2 real quick. Now, this is when stuff gets a little bit more serious. You can see we have this large marginal risk stretching again from southern Texas all the way up through the upper Midwest, including portions of the UP of Michigan, up through Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, and we have a smaller slight and then a smaller enhanced in there. So that's a 3 out of 5 risk. Now let's break this down. This is our tornado risk. So large 2%, smaller 5%, smaller 10%. The highest chance of seeing a tornado, at least according to the SPC, is portions of eastern Iowa, southeastern Minnesota, and then you can see central to western Wisconsin here. That's a 10% chance. So a 10% chance a tornado could touch down within 25 miles of any location in that yellow risk zone. You see this large hatched area. This means we could see up to an EF2 in strength tornado. It's always possible to see stronger than that, but it does look like we have the parameters to see a significant tornado, as we call it. So a large area. There's a lot of major cities in here, so we need to make sure we're paying attention. In this SIG 1 risk, where we could see up to a EF2 tornado, we're talking about a population of 11.1 million people. And if you look at the 10% region, that's 1.6 million. The 5% tornado risk region, that's 15.4 million. In the 2% tornado risk region, that is 32 million people. So a lot of people affected. I do want to talk about the wind risk. We have a 45% wind risk here through portions of Kansas, Missouri, and Iowa. That's a level 4 out of 5 wind risk. So almost a 50% chance you could see damaging wind within 25 miles of any location in this risk zone here. Topeka, you're right on the outside of that. Kansas City, you're right in the middle of that. And then Ottawa, Kansas again. And then getting up here towards Kirksville, Missouri. And then you can see here Centreville, Iowa, and around that region. But again, we still have a 30% out here and then our 15 to 5. So don't just focus on this area. We could have damaging wind anywhere out in this risk zone. But obviously, once again, the SIG, this means we could see hurricane force plus winds. This is when we're talking about once you get into the SIG 1, SIG 2, we're talking about over hurricane force winds, really 80, 90 plus mile per hour locally. If you get into some sort of strong bow echo or derecho event, I do think there's a possibility for a derecho type event where you get localized 100 plus mile per hour winds out here. Just taking a look at the future reflectivity. You don't want to make your forecast based off of that, but sometimes it can help when you're in a rush. You can tell we're going to get some sort of bow echo out here, and we're going to break these details down a little bit more here in just a moment. Now let's get into our day 3 risk. Getting into Saturday, our risk stretches out here through portions of Kentucky, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, western New York, Ohio, Indiana, and then potentially we'll see if it ends up including portions of Michigan as well. All right, let's break these risk zones down a little bit more. Here you go. There's your day 1, day 2, day 3 risk. So this is today, Thursday, then Friday, then Saturday. I want to start with our day 2 risk just because it's the most significant. So taking a look at our day 2 risk, this is the 4 panel here. This is going to be our tornado risk. This is going to be, like I showed you, our hail risk. This is going to be our wind risk. Once again, I want to remind everyone, this is for Friday. So this is not for today. I'm starting with Friday. Friday. We're going to look at the future reflectivity to start just for timing as we get into, looks like as we get into around 1, 2, 3 in the afternoon. So early afternoon, storms could begin to fire off. The models have been struggling lately with storm initiation, at least the timing of it. Storms definitely initiated late the last couple of days, or at least I know they initiated late on Tuesday. So here we go. So like I said, early afternoon, we start to see storms potentially firing off through portions of Wisconsin, eastern Iowa into Illinois. You can see Missouri, Kansas, down towards Oklahoma, and this is really looking kind of like a kind of QLCS, quasi-linear convective system. You call it a squall line forming, and there's always a concern with damaging winds with these because that's when you can get those bow echoes or kind of, we call them a bow echo because they're shaped like a bow, and you can kind of tell that's where the strongest winds are on the radar when you see those. And a lot of times they form along these frontal boundaries, or they form off of what we call an MCS, mesoscale convective system, when a bunch of clustered cells kind of merge together and form what looks to be a QLCS or a squall line. But it's typical to see damaging wind events or bow echoes with this type of setup just by taking a look at the future reflectivity. Now, what's also typical, and what, again, we also need to watch out for, is that tornado risk, because when you have these types of squall lines, there's going to be vorticity up and down the squall line, so there's going to be rotation along the squall line. So once again, Southern Plains all the way up through the upper Midwest. Make sure we're paying attention as we get into the early afternoon and then through the evening hours. This is going to continue to push off east. It does look like the severity of this risk really drops off as we get into around 9 to 10 p.m. Central Time. Still pay attention. I'd keep your alerts on overnight if you're out here through portions of the Midwest and then down here, potentially through portion, if we're talking about eastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, maybe even eastern Texas. We'll see if we get some initiation down here. All right, let's move forward a little bit. Let's just take a look at the parameters. Strong mid-level pattern here. So you can see we're looking at 74 to 80 knots up and down here from the Southern Plains up through the upper Midwest. So this is our mid-level jet. This is going to help to organize these storms. Could be a little stronger. That's why I think there could be a little bit disorganization with the storms. Here's the lower level winds. Again, some nice jet streaks showing up here. We could be pushing 70 plus knots, almost 90 mile per hour winds just above our head. That's going to strengthen those potential winds as well when we're talking about a damaging wind event for Friday. So that's something we need to watch. All right, getting into our temperatures. A nice baroclinic boundary setting up today. That helps with forcing. So when you get that cooler temperatures running up against those warmer temperatures, warm air is going to rise. It's going to pull the moisture up into the atmosphere. It's going to let it cool and condense into clouds, into storms. So cold air is going to rush underneath. Warm air is going to rush above. So again, when you get this boundary set up, the sharper the boundary, the more forcing you can have, the stronger the storms can be. So it's showing up there. It's definitely something we look for when determining if we're going to see severe weather, and it's there. Same thing with dew points. Your moist air is going to rise over your dry air. Pretty decent dry line here. And we'll have to actually see what happens out here in Oklahoma. We could see some decent shear and forcing out here through portions of central Oklahoma as well. But you can see really from the Central Plains all the way up through the upper Midwest, we have that dew point gradient and we have the temperature gradient. So we're expecting these storms to fire off. We're expecting a pretty decent looking squall line. All right, getting into today's severe event. Once again, this top right, that's your tornado risk. Bottom left, that's your wind risk, hail risk, and then bottom right, that's your wind risk. Let's move forward a little bit here. All right, so this is the reflectivity for today, and it almost looks like I was just talking about, a bow echo trying to form out here through portions of southern Illinois, western Kentucky, northwestern Tennessee, northeastern Arkansas, and southeastern Missouri. You see that kind of, like I said, bow echo. This could be a damaging wind event. The HRRR is seeing this. Again, you don't want to make your forecast just based off of the reflectivity, but it's interesting. The latest run this morning, the 11Z, is putting potentially some strong storms right down through that region. And then you can also see some of those updraft helicity marks up there, or updraft helicity tracks up here through upstate New York, out there through Vermont and New Hampshire as well. So those are still showing up. So again, make sure you have your alerts on today. We could have severe weather in between here as well. And then again, getting into Saturday, there's our severe risk up there through portions of the Midwest, pushing up into the Northeast. You got Kentucky up to Pennsylvania out there to Indiana. Taking a look at what could happen on Saturday. Here we go. It's tough to tell. Saturday, day 3, there's going to be some timing changes, but right now it looks like more of an evening event. It looks like we might not have strong to severe thunderstorms kicking off until, we'll call it 5 to 7 p.m. This is the Rufus model. It likes to be, it's typically too aggressive. I think the HRRR cannot be aggressive enough. The Rufus model a lot of times has an issue with firing off too much convection and firing it off too early, and I think that's because it struggles with, I've heard it struggles with dew points a lot, and I have seen that sometimes it pushes its dew points too high, so it sees a little bit too much forcing and a little bit too much forcing too early. Anyways, this does look like an afternoon event. Right now, and this could change, and I try to release videos almost every single day to update you guys, but right now, obviously, this looks like the most severe sector through here, so Southern Plains up through portions of the Ohio Valley, but things could change and I'll update you as they change. I will say the 500 millibar jet looks pretty decent. Where most of this convection is happening is just out ahead of the main jet streak. So these storms could have some problems organizing. That's something to watch. I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get updated anytime I go live or anytime I post a new video, which again, I try to post every day. I can't. I've got 2 little kids and a full-time job, but especially when there's severe events coming up like this Friday event, I want to make sure you guys are updated. I also have a Discord. I update every single day, regardless of if I go live or if I post a video. I update the severe weather forecast, winter weather, climatology. I update what's going on with tropical weather. It's a great weather resource. Almost 700 weather enthusiasts in there. So if you want to join that, the link's in the description right below. It's completely free. Only costs me money. It costs you nothing. Again, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you in the next video or the next live stream.